before the first word was spoken, before drums echoed through savannas, before the ancestors carved sacred lines into the earth, there were the ones who listened. Across Africa, priests, oracles, and spirit mediums did not just speak to the gods, they became vessels for them. They carried messages from the unseen, weaving them into the living fabric of the community. Their hands blessed kings, their visions averted disaster, their words bound warriors to justice. They were the bridge between this world and the next. These figures were not uniform. In the green heart of Yoruba land, Babalawos deciphered the future through the sacred Ifa. In Congo's shadowy forests, Ngangas healed wounds that were both physical and spiritual. On Zulu plains, Izangoma danced in trance, carrying the voices of ancestors. High in the cliffs of Mali, Dogon Hogons guarded cosmic secrets passed down from stars older than history. They were different names, different faces, but one truth. Spirit is power. But how did these vessels emerge? What called them from the ordinary into the extraordinary? How did their role shift from sacred guides to symbols of resistance, from quiet healers to loud voices of revival? Their stories stretch across continents and centuries, from whispered incantations to modern digital platforms where ancestral wisdom now finds new ears. This isn't just a history, it's a living call. So as we begin, I ask you, don't just listen, engage. Let these names echo in your thoughts. Feel their footsteps alongside yours. And when this story finds its way into your bones, return to this moment and ask yourself, which voice called you back? Whose wisdom lit your path? Whose silence, whose chant, whose cosmic code speaks your truth? Subscribe not to fill your feed, but to awaken memory. Like this video, not for vanity, but as a digital offering poured into the rivers of remembrance. And if this journey awakens something old and unspoken within you, share it. Pass it on to someone who still believes that wisdom is not dead, that our stories are not silent, and that the voices of the ancients are waiting for us to listen. Now, let the vessels rise. Let their voices begin. In the heart of Yoruba cosmology, the universe unfolds as a tapestry woven by the unseen hand of Orunmila, the deity of wisdom and divination. It is through Orunmila that the sacred Odu, mystical signs containing the sum of human fate, were revealed. These Odu are not just symbols. They are cosmic blueprints that guide every decision, every breath, every destiny. At the center of this intricate system stands the Babalawo, the master of Ifa, the priest who interprets the will of the gods. The training of a Babalawo is no simple path. It begins with years of apprenticeship, memorization of the 256 Odu Ifa, and the mastery of rituals that involve sacred palm nuts, divination chains, and invocations that can last for hours. The process is not merely intellectual, it is deeply spiritual, requiring the initiate to open themselves to the whispering currents of the divine. It is said that Orunmila himself chooses the Babalawo, calling them through dreams, misfortunes, or inexplicable revelations. To ignore this call is to invite chaos, not only in one's own life, but in the cosmic balance of the community. The Babalawo's role extends beyond prediction. In Yoruba thought, Ifa is not fatalism, it is guidance. When a Babalawo casts the Odu during a divination session, they are not just reading signs, they are engaging in dialogue with the universe. The advice given might prevent a disaster, encourage a marriage, or reveal hidden enemies. Each consultation is a spiritual negotiation, a dance between human agency and divine will. It is this intricate balance that has kept Ifa central to Yoruba society for centuries. With colonization and the spread of Christianity and Islam, the practice of Ifa faced suppression. Shrines were destroyed, and Babalawos were sometimes branded as heretics or charlatans. But the spirit of Ifa did not die. It went underground, surviving in whispered prayers, secret ceremonies, and the unbreakable memory of families. In the 20th century, as post-colonial Africa sought to reclaim its cultural and spiritual heritage, Ifa experienced a powerful revival. In Nigeria, shrines reopened, festivals were restored, and young people began seeking initiation into the ancient wisdom. The diaspora carried Ifa far beyond Yoruba land. In Cuba, Brazil, and Trinidad, where enslaved Africans were cut off from their homelands, Ifa adapted and merged with Catholic saints and local traditions, evolving into systems like Santeria and Candomblé. Yet at its core, the heart of Ifa remained intact, the belief that human beings are connected to a larger cosmic order, that their actions echo through the universe, and that divine wisdom is accessible through the Odu. Modern Babalawos today navigate a world of both ancient ritual and digital connection. Some hold traditional ceremonies deep in the forests of Osogbo or under sacred trees in Abeokuta. Others offer virtual consultations, bringing the voice of Orunmila to clients across the globe via encrypted messages and video calls. This fusion of old and new shows the resilience of Ifa and its ability to adapt without losing its essence. The Babalawo is still the mediator between human uncertainty and cosmic truth, offering clarity in a world that often feels chaotic. In Yoruba communities, whether in Lagos or London, the Babalawo remains a figure of respect. People seek them not only in times of crisis, but during moments of transition, marriage, childbirth, business ventures, or even spiritual confusion. To consult a Babalawo is to honor the belief that no human action exists in isolation. Everything is part of a cosmic pattern that can be read, understood, and, when necessary, adjusted. As Ifa continues to rise from the shadows of colonial erasure, the Babalawo stands as a testament to the enduring power of African spiritual systems. They remind us that wisdom is not static, that it moves through human vessels willing to listen, learn, and speak the language of the divine. In the hands of the Babalawo, the sacred Odu do not simply tell the future, they teach us how to walk through it with awareness and grace. In the lush, fertile expanse of Central Africa, where the Congo River twists through dense forests, the Ngangas, spirit healers and guides, have stood as pillars of Congo cosmology for centuries. These men and women are not merely herbalists or seers. They are bridges between the living and the dead, the earthly and the spiritual. To the Congo people, illness is not just physical. Misfortune is not merely chance. Everything is connected, and the Ngangas are the ones who see these connections and intervene. Congo cosmology views life as a circle where the physical and spiritual worlds flow into one another. The Ngangas operate at this threshold. When a child falls mysteriously ill, when crops fail despite rainfall, or when dreams whisper of something wrong, the community turns to the Nganga. Through ritual, divination, and sacred medicines drawn from the forest, the Nganga identifies not just the symptom, but the spiritual cause. Often this involves ancestral displeasure, a broken taboo, or a curse that needs to be lifted. The Nganga negotiates with the unseen, offering sacrifices and prayers to restore harmony. Their power is deeply tied to Nkisi, sacred objects believed to contain spiritual force. Nkisi can be bundles of herbs, carvings embedded with nails and charms, or bottles filled with symbolic ingredients. To outsiders, these may look like art or superstition, but to the Kongo, each Nkisi is a living conduit, a vessel for ancestral and cosmic energy. The Nganga prepares and activates these Nkisi, empowering them through incantations and rituals that call on both the spirits of the land and the ancestors. When a person carries a Nkisi blessed by a Nganga, they carry not just a talisman, but a shield. Colonization struck at the heart of these practices. European missionaries dismissed the Ngangas as witch doctors, and colonial governments outlawed their rituals, labeling them as dangerous or heretical. Many were persecuted, driven underground, or forced to mask their practices within Christian symbolism. Yet the knowledge of the Ngangas was not easily extinguished. It persisted in whispers, in hidden ceremonies performed deep in the forest, in coded language passed from one generation to the next. The spirits could not be colonized, and neither could those who spoke with them. Today, the role of the Nganga is experiencing a resurgence. In the face of modern challenges, disease, poverty, fractured communities, many are returning to these ancient practices for guidance and healing. In urban areas, Ngangas blend traditional methods with modern medicine, recognizing that while the physical world has changed, the spiritual needs of the people remain. They consult with clients not just for sickness, but for legal troubles, family disputes, and dreams that unsettle the soul. Their rituals have adapted, but their core remains. The Nganga is a mediator of balance. In diasporic communities across the Americas, descendants of Kongo people are reconnecting with the Nganga tradition. In Afro-Cuban religions like Palo Mayombe, which preserves elements of Congo spirituality, Ngangas continue to consecrate sacred cauldrons filled with spirit-infused ingredients, echoing the Nkisi of the homeland. These practices have not only survived, they have evolved, blending with new environments and cultures while retaining their essence. The resilience of the Ngangas reflects the resilience of the Kongo spirit itself. At its heart, the Nganga's role is about restoration of health, of justice, of spiritual equilibrium. They teach that life's challenges are not random, but are messages to be read and responded to. They remind their communities that no one is ever truly alone, that the ancestors walk beside them, and that every misfortune carries within it a lesson and a path to healing. Their work is not showy or boastful. It is quiet, deliberate, and deeply rooted in the belief that spirit animates all things. As modern Africa grapples with new crises and opportunities, the voice of the Ngangas rises again. They stand as living testaments to the endurance of indigenous knowledge systems. They show us that healing is not just about the body, but about remembering the connection between past and present, between human and spirit. And in every chant, in every ritual, in every Nkisi prepared, the message is clear. We are never alone. The ancestors are listening, the spirits are watching, and the Ngangas are ready to guide. In the open plains and rocky hills of southern Africa, where the winds whisper across grasslands and the ancestors walk in the mists, the Izangoma, Zulu spirit mediums, have long served as dream messengers. Their calling is not chosen but bestowed, often through dreams, visions, or physical affliction. It begins subtly, a series of vivid dreams, an unexplained illness, or a persistent pull toward the unseen. These are not coincidences. They are the voice of the ancestors, summoning the individual to become a vessel for guidance and healing. When this calling intensifies, the initiate cannot ignore it. To resist is to invite further illness or misfortune, a rupture in the balance between the living and the dead. The family often recognizes these signs and consults an elder or an experienced Izangoma who confirms the spiritual call. Once accepted, the initiate undergoes ukuthwasa, a rigorous and transformative initiation that marks the transition from ordinary life into the sacred role of diviner. This initiation is not a mere ceremony. It is an immersive journey into the mysteries of the ancestral realm. During ukuthwasa, the initiate lives apart from the community, often in a secluded homestead where they learn the chants, dances, and rituals of the Izangoma tradition. They are trained to interpret dreams, read bones, and listen to the whispers of the ancestors carried on the wind. Sacred tools such as umlanga, divining bones, amabayi, beaded garments, and snuff made from ground herbs become extensions of their body and spirit. These items are not accessories. They are keys to the invisible, each carrying power and significance. The completion of initiation is marked by a public ceremony where the newly anointed Izangoma performs their first divination in front of the community. This event is a vibrant display of song, dance, and ancestral invocation, affirming the connection between the healer and the spirits. It is a moment of profound recognition, not only of the individual's transformation, but of the enduring presence of the ancestors in daily life. The Izangoma does not just serve as a healer, they become a living embodiment of ancestral wisdom and protection. In contemporary South Africa, the Izangoma continue to thrive, not just in rural homesteads, but within the vibrant urban centers of Johannesburg, Durban, and beyond. Amid skyscrapers and digital screens, these healers maintain traditional practices while adapting to modern realities. Young people, often balancing careers and ancestral callings, undergo ukuthwasa in between work shifts and urban obligations. Some offer consultations in person, while others extend their reach through social media and virtual readings, bringing the voice of the ancestors into digital spaces. Despite the pressures of modernization and the stigma often attached to traditional practices, the Izangoma remain steadfast. They are called upon to heal physical ailments, mend broken relationships, and provide clarity in times of uncertainty. Their clients include not only the devout, but also skeptics drawn by the undeniable pull of ancestral truth. In a world often fragmented by technology and disconnection, the Izangoma's work is a reminder of the enduring ties that bind generations. What sets the Izangoma apart is their humility. They do not claim personal power but attribute their abilities to the ancestors who guide them. Each reading, each healing session is an act of service, not just to the individual but to the broader community and the spirits beyond. They are custodians of balance, navigating the thin line between the visible and invisible worlds, ensuring that the living honor the dead and that the dead continue to guide the living. As Africa and its diaspora embrace a renewed interest in traditional spirituality, the Izangoma's voice grows louder. They are no longer relegated to the margins of society, but are stepping into spaces of cultural pride and spiritual reclamation. Their drums echo through urban alleys and ancestral homesteads alike, carrying the message that dreams are not merely imagination, and that guidance, when sought with humility and respect, will always be given. In every whisper, every bone cast, every song sung beneath the stars, the ancestors speak and the Izangoma listen. In the arid cliffs of Mali's Bandiagara escarpment, the Dogon people have preserved one of the most intricate cosmologies in the world. At the center of this rich spiritual tapestry stands the Hogon, the high priest and custodian of cosmic secrets. The Dogon's understanding of the universe, its stars, cycles, and spirits, has long fascinated scholars, particularly their knowledge of Sirius, a star system invisible to the naked eye. Yet, to the Dogon, this knowledge isn't simply astronomical, it's ancestral. The Dogon cosmology is built on the story of Nomo, an ancestral spirit who descended from the heavens to bring order and knowledge. The elders teach that Nomo brought the codes of creation, including the movement of stars, the language of water, and the laws governing the balance of life. The Hogon, chosen through a complex ritual of signs and ancestral consultation, embodies this transmission of wisdom. Once appointed, the Hogon must observe strict rituals including celibacy, a ban on physical labor, and regular periods of isolation for spiritual cleansing. The Hogon's authority extends beyond astronomy. He acts as the spiritual anchor of the community, overseeing rites of passage, agricultural blessings, and conflict resolution. His dwelling is marked by sacred symbols, cross-hatched carvings representing the interconnectedness of life and cosmos. These markings are not decorative. They encode teachings about cycles of existence, the relationship between earth and sky, and the responsibilities of humans within this vast network. Villagers approach the Hogon not just for blessings but for guidance on ethical and communal decisions. Generations of Dogon have passed these teachings through oral tradition, preserving details of cosmic phenomena with astonishing precision. Long before modern telescopes confirmed the existence of Sirius B, a dense companion star to Sirius, Dogon elders spoke of it in stories. They described its weight, its orbit, and its influence on earthly events. To the outside world, this was inexplicable. To the Dogon, it was simple continuity, a transmission of sacred knowledge from Nomo through the Hogon to the community. The process of becoming a Hogon is as much spiritual as it is social. Elders interpret omens, unusual animal behavior, prophetic dreams, or natural signs to determine who will assume the role. Once chosen, the initiate withdraws from daily life, entering a period of seclusion where they absorb the teachings of their predecessor, meditate on the cosmic codes, and prepare to carry the weight of ancestral knowledge. This process is not a test of academic ability, but of spiritual readiness. Despite external pressures from colonial disruption to modern influences, the Dogon have fiercely guarded their spiritual heritage. The Hogon continues to function not just as a religious figure, but as a cultural cornerstone. Even today, in an era of globalization and digital media, Dogon youth learn the sacred stories and participate in rituals that affirm their identity and connection to the cosmos. During major ceremonies like the Sigi festival, which occurs every 60 years, the Hogon presides over elaborate rites that renew the community's bond with its origins. Modern researchers often marvel at the Dogon's astronomical knowledge, speculating about how such insights were obtained. But the Dogon themselves see this as a misunderstanding. The wisdom of the stars is not an intellectual achievement, but a spiritual inheritance. It is woven into the fabric of everyday life, reflected in the patterns of millet fields, the rhythms of dance, and the architecture of cliffside dwellings. The Hogon does not claim authorship of this knowledge, but serves as its vessel and transmitter. In a time when much of the world rushes forward, discarding old ways in favor of fleeting progress, the Dogon remind us that wisdom is not a thing of the past. It is a living, breathing presence carried in rituals, stories, and the silent watch of the Hogon. Their connection to the stars is not about distance, but about belonging, knowing one's place in the grand design of the universe. As long as the Hogon stands, gazing at the sky with the weight of centuries behind him, the Dogon's cosmic codes will endure, a beacon of continuity and reverence. Across the vast expanse of Africa, from the highlands of Ethiopia to the coastal plains of Senegal and the islands of Madagascar, the pattern repeats itself. A profound relationship between the living and the spirit world, woven into every aspect of life. These spiritual traditions, though varied in form and practice, are connected by shared codes of dreams, rituals, symbols, and resilience that continue to thrive despite centuries of colonial disruption and cultural suppression. It is a pattern of survival and adaptation, a spiritual technology that has always placed the human being as a conduit between worlds. In Ethiopia, the Debteras stand as living libraries of sacred knowledge. These itinerant priests, scribes, and healers move between villages with scrolls inscribed in Ngangas, incantations that blend Orthodox Christian prayer with ancient pre-Christian cosmologies. Their tools include holy water, blessed amulets, and coded prayers passed down through families. They not only heal bodies but also protect souls from malevolent forces, reading signs in the natural world and interpreting dreams that point to spiritual imbalance. The Debteras' resilience lies in their quiet adaptability, existing both within and beyond the formal structures of the Ethiopian Church, preserving layers of indigenous knowledge under the cover of Christian orthodoxy. Further west in Senegal, the Saltigues of the Serer people continued to guard sacred codes that span centuries. These priests and diviners possess an encyclopedic knowledge of astronomy, botany, and oral history. Their rituals are centered around the Zoe, gatherings where prophecy is revealed through trance, drumming, and dance. Like the Ngangas and Izangoma, Saltigues interpret dreams, advise on communal decisions, and offer protection through sacred medicine. They are the heartbeat of Serer's spiritual life, their authority derived not from books or official positions, but from ancestral inheritance and demonstrated wisdom. On the island of Madagascar, the Ombiasy, traditional healers and diviners hold space for ancestral spirits through rituals that combine medicine, astrology, and communication with the dead. They perform ceremonies of Famadihana, the turning of the bones, where ancestors are exhumed, honored, and rewrapped, symbolizing the cyclical nature of life and death. This act of remembrance is not simply cultural performance. It is a renewal of the covenant between the living and the dead, a reaffirmation that the ancestors' presence is active and necessary for communal balance. What ties these traditions together across the continent is not uniformity of belief, but resonance of purpose. The emphasis on dreams as messages, on ritual as a means of communication, and on symbols, whether beaded necklaces, carved talismans, or coded chants as repositories of wisdom, reveals a shared African understanding that the spiritual world is as real and consequential as the physical one. These are not superstitions as colonial narratives often claimed. They are sophisticated systems of knowledge that have guided societies for millennia. The resilience of these practices becomes even more apparent when we consider the African diaspora. Across the Americas and the Caribbean, descendants of enslaved Africans preserved fragments of these traditions, reconstructing them in new environments. In Haiti, Vodou weaves together West African deities with Catholic saints, creating a living testament to the endurance of ancestral memory. In Brazil, Candomblé and Umbanda honor orixás alongside Christian symbols, while in Cuba, Santeria keeps alive the voice of Ifá and the wisdom of the Babalawos. These traditions are not static relics but dynamic expressions of survival, creativity, and faith. In the face of historical trauma, slavery, colonization, forced conversion, the spiritual codes of Africa did not merely survive. They transformed. Enslaved peoples carried their gods, their divination systems, and their secret symbols in their bodies, embedding them into song, dance, and everyday ritual. This underground network of spiritual knowledge became a quiet form of resistance, a refusal to forget, a determination to maintain identity in the face of systematic erasure. Every whispered prayer, every coded chant, every concealed symbol was a declaration. We are still here, and the ancestors still walk with us. Today, this ancestral resurgence is visible not just in ritual spaces, but in art, music, and activism. Artists and scholars in Africa and its diaspora are reclaiming these traditions with pride. Festivals honoring Oryxas, public lectures on indigenous cosmologies, and digital platforms sharing the teachings of Babalawos, Ngangas, and Izangoma are flourishing. Young people, once distanced from these practices by urbanization or Western education, are returning to them, seeking guidance, identity, and spiritual grounding. They wear beaded necklaces not just as fashion but as symbols of protection and lineage. They consult diviners not out of curiosity but out of a deep recognition of spiritual need. This revival is not a simple return to the past. It is a reinvention, a reassertion that these practices are not outdated relics, but living, breathing systems that can coexist with modernity. It is a recognition that the wisdom carried by the Debteras, the Saltigues, the Ombiasy, and countless others offers not just personal guidance, but a collective memory of resilience and resistance. The rituals, symbols, and codes passed down through generations are not ornamental. They are functional blueprints for survival, for healing, and for justice. As the world grapples with ecological crises, social upheaval, and spiritual emptiness, the voices of these African traditions grow louder. They remind us that wisdom is not always written in books or spoken in formal tongues. Sometimes it is danced into the earth, whispered into dreams, or inscribed into the very air we breathe. These are the teachings of the Spirit, carried across continents, defying borders, transcending time. They are a call to remember, not just who we are, but what we are connected to. In the quiet beat of the drum, in the swirling smoke of incense, in the subtle gestures of ritual, the Spirit of Africa speaks, and through the Debteras, Saltigues, Ombiasy, and countless others, that voice continues to echo, strong, defiant, and eternal. Why do they return? For generations, silence blanketed the names of priests, oracles, and spirit mediums. Colonization, forced conversions, and the relentless march of modernity conspired to bury their voices, to dismantle the sacred spaces where the ancestors once spoke. Their symbols were mocked, their rituals dismissed as superstition, and their wisdom fragmented by the sharp edges of foreign doctrines. But silence does not mean absence. The spirits were not destroyed. They were merely waiting for a time when the noise of conquest would fade, when the descendants of the dispossessed would be ready to listen again. That time is now. The voices of the ancestors, once reduced to whispers in hidden corners, are rising with new force. They return because memory cannot be erased. They return because the world, fractured by disconnection and loss, is seeking guidance not from textbooks or towering institutions, but from the wellspring of spirit. They return through the hands of young Babalawos, decoding the Odu in bustling cities, through Izangoma who weave ancestral wisdom into modern urban life, through Ngangas who heal not just physical wounds, but the scars of displacement. They return because the questions we ask today about who we are, where we belong, what we've lost, are the same questions that these spiritual guides have always answered. The ancestors know that truth is not found only in archives or laboratories. It lives in the chants, the dances, the sacred rituals we are only now beginning to recover. Their return is not a haunting. It is a homecoming, And in their return, they offer a chance to realign, to listen, to remember that spirit is not bound by time or silence. It endures, it calls, and now we are finally listening. Across the vastness of this continent, from ancient temples to modern cities, one truth stands unshaken. The human vessel is the bridge to the divine. The priests, oracles, and spirit mediums of Africa did not merely channel sacred wisdom. They became living conduits for forces that move beyond sight. Through their rituals, chants, and dreams, they remind us that the distance between the physical and the spiritual is as thin as breath, as immediate as memory. They show us that spirit is not confined to sacred sites or special moments. It flows through us, waiting to be called, to be heard, to be felt. In the silence of modern life, where distractions pull us from deeper truths, I pray for you now. May your spirit awaken to the rhythms of the unseen. May you find guidance not only in the logic of the world, but in the whispers of the ancestors. May the light of Orunmila's wisdom illuminate your path. May the healing hands of the Ngangas mend not just your body, but the fractures in your soul. May the dreams of the Izangoma lead you back to your purpose. May the cosmic codes of the Hogon align your life with the sacred patterns that govern us all. May you remember that you are never alone, that every step you take is witnessed, guided, and blessed by those who came before. As we conclude this journey, I ask you, what voice spoke to you? Which path resonated with your spirit? Leave a comment and share the moments that stirred your memory, your curiosity, your longing. This is not just a conversation, it is a communal invocation, a digital gathering of those who still believe in the power of spirit. Subscribe, not for numbers, but to stay connected to this ever-unfolding story. Like this video, not for metrics, but as a quiet offering to the divine. And if these words stirred something ancient within you, something waiting to rise, share it. Let it ripple outward, across screens and borders, to reach others whose spirits are waiting to awaken. Thank you for walking this path with us. May the ancestors walk with you always, and may the spirit of Africa rise in your heart, now and forever.